Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. In today's episode, we'll hear from Variety's Rebecca Rubin on a busy weekend at the box office in terms of diversity of product, plus two big stars, Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. That's always a good thing for exhibitors. But before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. Of course, the big news of the morning comes out of Warner Brothers Discovery. WBD is about to begin a 7-day period of negotiations with Paramount Skydance again. But at the same time, WBD has set the date for a shareholder vote that is key to moving its sale to Netflix forward. That date is March 20th. Warner Brothers is saying explicitly that it needs Paramount to declare that it has reached its best and final offer so that shareholders can fairly evaluate the two offers from Netflix at just under $83 billion and a little over $100 billion from Paramount Skydance, which includes assets that Netflix is not buying. Warner Brothers and Netflix are treating this as a nuisance that they have to get past in order to complete their deal. Netflix, in a statement, criticized its rival for creating, quote, an ongoing distraction for Warner Brothers Discovery stockholders and the broader entertainment industry caused by Paramount Skydance's antics, end quote. Meanwhile, the long holiday weekend began on Friday night with Casey Wasserman surprising the industry with the disclosure that his talent and marketing agencies will be put up for sale. It's an extraordinary development stemming from the fallout of Wasserman's appearance in the Epstein files. Even though it came in 2003, years before Epstein was convicted of any crimes, Wasserman's association with Ghislaine Maxwell has taken a huge toll. Artists have spoken out, and Wasserman now has a majority owner to answer to in Providence Equity. It's not just up to him to gut it out as a business owner. On Monday, things got worse for Casey Wasserman as Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass said that she believes he should step down from his role as the chairman of the LA 28 committee organizing the Summer Olympic Games in Los Angeles. What a mess. This morning, we got the sad news that the Reverend Jesse Jackson has died after a long illness at age 84. He was an incredible civil rights leader his entire life. His presidential campaign were a milestone moment for this country. You had to be there to understand the impact. Keep hope alive. And R.I.P. to Robert Duvall. We'll hear more about Duvall's incredible career from Variety's own Owen Gleiberman in tomorrow's episode. For now, the tributes are rolling in, and you can find them on Variety.com, including my conversation held on a rainy Monday morning with Walter Hill, who directed Duvall in the 2006 miniseries Broken Trail and the 1993 movie Geronimo. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. And now it's time for conversations with Variety journalists about news and trends in show business. Rebecca Rubin, Variety's box office chief, joins us to assess the opening weekend of Wuthering Heights, which tested the box office pull of Margot Robbie, Jacob Elordi, and director Emerald Fennell. Rebecca Rubin, thanks for joining us to talk about box office. This was an interesting weekend because you had the Valentine's Day holiday colliding with the President's Day holiday. So how do you think all of that affected the box office turnout?
There was a nice range of new movies, which is always welcome news for theater owners because they don't want a movie that's just appealing to one demographic. It's helpful when there's a weekend like this and you have Wuthering Heights appealing to women, Goat appealing to family audiences, and then Crime 101 catering to mostly men. It was behind last year's President's Day weekend because the Marvel movie Captain America Brave New World opened to $100 million, but all things considered, it was a pretty decent weekend overall. Wuthering Heights was the #1 film. It's projected to earn $40 million over the 4-day weekend. That's through President's Day on Monday. And in a surprising twist, it actually did better internationally. It made $42 million for a global launch of 82 million. And that's about even with where projections were at for this film. It's very buzzy. That's due to Emerald Fennell being a director that really gets people talking. The stars Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, and it just being a steamy romance drama tied to Valentine's Day. So the fact that Warner Brothers spent about $80 million on it, I would say it's off to a pretty good start, but like any film, they just needed to keep playing, and it seems like international audiences might be key to the film's longevity.
Do you have any sense of like were most of these audiences couples on dates? Was it in fact a Valentine's Day weekend thing for people? Any sense of like who actually turned out for Wuthering Heights?
It was very overwhelmingly female. Over 75% of opening weekend audiences were women, so safe to say it was probably a Valentine's Day heavy affair. But what's so interesting to me about this film, Netflix was actually bidding quite heavily on Wuthering Heights. They were offering to pay $150 million for Emerald Fennell's take on this classic novel. And the filmmaker and the producers is Margot Robbie is one of the producers as well. They actually opted to take less money from Warner Brothers in exchange for a theatrical release and a full-scale marketing campaign, and it seems like that paid off. I think if this movie cost $150 million and it was released theatrically, it'd be a much different conversation about where it was starting in terms of opening weekend ticket sales. But this is now the ninth film from Warner Brothers to open at number one. They've had a fabulous, fabulous streak at the box office, and so it's really just illuminating the fact that when you have stars that people care about, a property that's interesting to people, and a director who's putting their own spin on things and making something feel theatrical, those are all elements that help create conversation. And we'll never know what it would have looked like if this film released on Netflix and what kind of cultural impact it would have had. But $82 million in its opening weekend is certainly a great start.
Emerald Fennell and Margot Robbie have definitely proven themselves to be, they are fans of exhibition. And the marketing that I've seen on Wuthering Heights, it's got the look of like an old Betty Davis movie where she's Jezebel or something. Like they're really selling the steaminess and the star power and you want to see this couple together. And I'm certainly in that category, even though I did not contribute to the opening weekend, but I definitely want to see it on the big screen. And of course, I know it's not lost on you that but actually that touches right on a very interesting consideration that regulators are thinking about, people in the industry are thinking about, but that scenario you described where Netflix was bidding on it, Warner Brothers made its pitch, like that's a dynamic, healthy, competitive market at work. Artists had options, and obviously these artists have a lot, come in with a ton of clout, of course, but as it would appear that Netflix and Warner Brothers are going to become one, how does that conversation change when both of those companies are now under the same roof? We're not going to solve that here, but I did not want to let it go without pointing that out. Was this a big city movie, or was turnout kind of like around the country, like a lot of people wanted to go see Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi and the Moors?
This is a movie that did pretty well on the coast. The top locations were sort of what we see week to week, being in New York City and Los Angeles. So I think it's safe to say it over-indexed in the cities that you'd expect. The top markets after New York and Los Angeles were Dallas, Chicago, San Francisco, DC, Boston, and so definitely seems to be playing across the country.
Let me ask you about the rest of the box office. As you said, it was a diverse mix of titles. What else stood out to you?
For sure. Sony's new animated movie called Goat debuted in second place. It earned around 26 million over the traditional weekend, and it's projected to earn 32 million through the holiday on Monday. And it's one of the bigger starts for an original animated film, and that is a type of film that's been quite challenged actually in recent years, which is interesting because family films have been doing really well when they're treading familiar territory, whether that is an adaptation of a popular game like Minecraft or a sequel to a really big film like Zootopia. 2 or Inside Out 2, but original animated properties have had a harder time getting people to come out to theaters. And so this film cost $80 million, meaning, like most movies we'll be talking about, need to stick around in theaters to justify this spend. But 80 million is a lot less than Disney would have spent on some of the Pixar movies that have struggled recently. And so definitely has a chance to become a slow and steady box office hit. That's something that we've seen actually Universal, particularly with their DreamWorks films, really excel with. Recently, they had in 2023 Migration and in 2024 The Wild Robot. And both of those films did not have spectacular opening weekends. They had decent starts, but they ended up just playing and playing and playing for weeks on end, and they each eventually earned $300 million globally. And so if GOAT can do anything close to that, Sony will be very thrilled with that result. And there's not a ton of not really competition on the kid-friendly front until Pixar has a new movie called Hoppers that is coming in March. But I think where GOAT really benefited, it has strong reviews, which are always it's always a helpful. It's always helpful to get people to go to theaters, but there has been almost nothing that family audiences have gone to see since Zootopia 2 came out around Thanksgiving. For 12 weeks, that film has continued to draw audiences at the box office. And so this is the first family-oriented film that's really managed to bring people out in significant numbers.
With GOAT, Steph Curry, this comes from his unanimous media banner, and oh my God, my inbox is stuffed with promotion. Steph Curry, who his NBA career appears to be winding down in the next couple of years. He really does seem to be one who is going to go for it in media. And between GOAT and his company last fall launched the comedy on Peacock, Mr. Throwback, that was a bit autobiographical. Like, he really seems to be going for it. And as you say, the wholly original concept is the hardest thing to sell right now in the sea of IP and adaptations. What else was out there? The story was not as good for Crime 101. In this case, Crime didn't pay too much.
Crime 101 is from Amazon MGM, and it opened in third place with 15 million over the traditional weekend, and it's projected to make 17.7 million through Monday. Rivals, some of them believe that the 4-day number will end up being closer to 15 to 16 million, so it'll be interesting to see where it ends up. It's one of those films that's a little hard to classify because on one hand, it's a decent start for an R-rated movie that's aimed at adults. There's another subset of films that have just been challenged a bit in recent years. But Amazon spent a lot of money on this film. It cost $90 million to produce. And since, like all movies, theater owners are keeping roughly half of ticket sales, this movie does need to stick around for a while to justify its price tag. And Amazon always says they're not trying to produce box office juggernauts, and they are just looking to earn back their marketing and distribution spends. But a lot of their rivals think it's hard to believe that they are willing to spend as much as $90 million and not want to earn back some of that money.
As we always discuss, there are so many different metrics. Amazon's long-term metrics are very different from Netflix, are very different from Warner Brothers and HBO. So much to watch. Well, Rebecca, as always, appreciate you running down the important things for us. Anything in particular you're looking forward to for next weekend or the first week of March?
Some of the upcoming releases that I think will be on people's radars are Scream 7, the new Pixar movie Hoppers, and then there's Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, which is a remake of Frankenstein. And those are all upcoming before what is really going to be the first heavy hitter of the year, which is the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And if the first Super Mario movie is any indication, this will just knock it out of the park among family audiences, and it will definitely be a major bright spot for movie theater owners in the spring.
Interesting. Well, I'm already thinking about the potential variety pairing of Maggie Gyllenhaal and Guillermo del Toro to geek out on Frankenstein. Anyway, much to look forward to, Rebecca. As always, appreciate you being out there helping us interpret all this.
Thanks for having me.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. The BAFTA Awards will be held Sunday at the Royal Albert Hall. Variety will have a big contingent there to cover it all. The Paley Center for Media is hosting a conversation with Imagine Entertainment's Brian Grazer on Thursday night in Beverly Hills. The questioner will be Mary Parent, chairman of production for Legendary Entertainment. I'm looking forward to it. Send congratulations to Sean Ryan. Season 3 of Netflix's The Night Agent premieres on Thursday. It's not the noisiest of shows, but Netflix data has shown that it is a very popular procedural. We love to hear from listeners, so please send thoughts, gripes, and other feedback about Daily Variety to podcasts@variety.com. Before we go, congrats to Sophie Leonard. She's been named Executive Vice President of Unscripted for the Fox Television Network. She comes to the company after running her own production banner, Samphire Films, and she also worked for the UK's Minnow Films. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Rebecca Rubin. Sticks, Nicks, Hick, Picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in tomorrow for another episode of Daily Variety.